Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first in quite a while edition of Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino. My name is James Scaresbrook. Thank you very much for joining me. You may notice that I'm in a slightly different location today. We're actually at my new house, moved house, so you will no longer have me sitting on that couch in that living room. And I thought I would record one outside, see how it goes. Because I'm still in the process of setting up my study, which potentially will be also where I do my tastings, but before then I thought I couldn't wait any longer. I've been sitting on these for quite a while. I'm very excited to be showing tasting wines from Yalumba. I believe I have looked at some wines from Yalumba before. I certainly have looked at wines from Hillsmith Family Vineyards, Robert Hillsmith, MW, his family business, and the Y series represents possibly some of the best value wine in Australia. As far as Australian wine goes, it is very much a go-to, omnipresent in your favourite bar, bottle shop, drive-through, that kind of thing. Always hugely over-delivering in terms of value for money. Quality is outstanding for the price, and I'm excited to actually explore a lot more of the range. I'm familiar with certain wines in the range, but here I'm looking at 2017 wines. All except one are white wines, and as you can see, there is also a rosé. They all have a recommended retail price of $15 Australian, and I think I've sort of got them in a fairly good tasting order. So without further ado, let's start off with the 2017 Yalumba Y Series Sauvignon Blanc. As I mentioned, recommended retail price of $15 Australian dollars. Sauvignon Blanc, of course, exploded about 10-15 years ago, partly in response to people not really enjoying rich, oaky, buttery Chardonnays. And certainly New Zealand, the New Zealand wine industry capitalised on that, the variety's popularity. There's a lot of good Australian examples as well. I'm really interested to see what this Y series has to offer. Fairly shy on the nose, not super exuberant, just getting the faintest hint of some grassy green notes there. Some white florals and some yellow fruits as well. Yeah, but just a bit of grassiness. Fairly typical of Sauvignon Blanc. Let's taste. Fresh, clean, quite simple. It certainly looks like a varietal example of Sauvignon Blanc. Not heaps of exuberance. Not heaps of intensity, very easy drinking, pretty good for $15. But you spend a little bit more, you start to see a lot more interesting and complex, maybe not complex, but it's like more concentrated examples of Sauvignon Blanc. There's certainly nothing ungainly or ugly about that wine. It's quite light and fresh and very easy to drink, so decent start. Moving on to the 2017 Yalumba Y Series Riesling. Yalumba is based in the Barossa, and I dare say that much of their fruit comes from there. I think for the Y series they do source from slightly further away, but of the 6 I'm tasting today, the Riesling is the only one that's labelled as Barossa. So I would say that probably includes Eden Valley as well. Eden Valley, a famous Riesling region in Australia. A little bit more presence on the nose. Again, very textbook aromatic fruit components here. You know, a little bit blossomy, a little bit jasminy, lime, bit of lime cordial, that kind of thing. Quite pretty. Let's taste. Again, light, fresh, very simple on the palate. Just enough fruit presence there. Again, very, very drinkable. It's a bit of a green character in there as well. Again, for Riesling, that's very serviceable, but still not seeing heaps and heaps of personality coming through. It's not going to be disappointing at $10 to $15, so you know, very well handled. Third one, a variety that really exploded in Australia, Pinot Grigio, sometimes known as Pinot Gris. Grigio is sort of considered, well, at least I consider it to be the great alternative to Sauvignon Blanc, because you can typically produce lovely, fresh, light but aromatic wines. Part of the difficulty with Grigio is stylistically what it is. Grigio generally, I feel, should be a little bit crisper, whereas Gris should be a little bit richer and more textural. So I'm interested to see if this, labelled as a Grigio, is styled sort of like a Grigio. Interesting, aromatically. Sort of a bit squeaky. It almost has, I don't know. Sort of a bleachy sort of smell. Very, very subtle. I think I need to look at this on the palate, so let's taste. Well, stylistically, it is on the lighter, fresher end of the spectrum, like you would hope a Grigio would be. There's a little bit of weight there, a little bit of depth. Yeah, it's all that sort of, you know, apple and pear coming through. A bit tart. There's some very, very, very delicate, savoury texture as well. I don't know. I think you could possibly find some better Pinot Grigio examples, even at that price, or dare I say it, cheaper. That one's a little bit of a miss for me. Number 4, the Y Series Chardonnay 2017. Chardonnay is one of those varieties that, because of the slightly more complex nature, can be a bit more difficult to do on a budget, but when you can find a good example, you should stick with that until they sell out, basically. So I'm interested to see how this Chardonnay is looking. Much nicer aromatically, again very classic white peach, a little bit of citrus. Nice and expressive, varietally, absolutely spot on. Let's taste. Very clean, very fresh style of Chardonnay. If there's any oak, I would say possibly might be some oak staves. But it is on that sort of clean end of the spectrum. It just has a little bit of bitterness in the mid palate, but then that kind of washes away and rounds up quite nice and soft. Again, I think this is for $15 to $15. I think this is a really solid Chardonnay. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So yeah, very, very safe bet. The last white wine I'm going to taste is the Y Series Viognier 2017. Viognier is possibly one of the most lauded varieties at Yalumba. Certainly Louisa Rose has done an incredible job with the Viognier and produces one of the top white wines in Australia, the Vigilius Viognier. So I'm sure, and hopefully, it will be the case with the 2017. The Y Series should be a very great example of Viognier, even at that price. Woo! Just jumping out of the glass here. Like this one is certainly kind of looking a bit riper. The alcohol is a little bit high here, so it's certainly got a lot more personality to it. Very classic, you know, apricot. White flowers, that kind of thing. A little bit spicy. I'm liking where this is heading. Let's taste. Nice presence on the palate. Another clean, fresh one. This is pretty much the hallmark of the Y Series range. Excellent balance here. Viognier is the best of those white wines, no doubt about that. It's very moreish. I want to have more. I want to enjoy this. You know, I certainly want to have it with food, which I couldn't say with some of the other white wines. It has just some fruit sweetness. It has a bit of bite, which I like to see in white wines. Good acidity. It's just been well composed, well put together. So, outstanding job with the Y Series Viognier for 2017 to the team at Yalumba. Final one is a bit of a personal favourite of mine, the Sangiovese Rosé from the 2017 vintage. This was a wine that I used to sell at King & Godfrey. I used to stock a number of the Y Series range, but I tell you what, like bang for buck, this is one of the best rosés in Australia. It's one of the wines that led me to think that Sangiovese is possibly the best variety to use for rosé. And even on a budget, you can get some really high quality rosé from Sangiovese. So very excited to try the 2017 example. Fairly delicate on the nose. Just a little bit of sort of underripe strawberry coming through. Tiny bit of creaminess as well. Let's taste. Yeah, lovely and fresh, very light. Just enough fruit sweetness with a dry finish as well. Wow, I mean, rosé fans, you will not be disappointed with that Y Series Sangiovese Rosé. It is an absolute killer at the price. Look, all these wines, and I'm interested to have a look at some of the reds when they get released, but all these wines do over-deliver in terms of quality versus price. Some of them a little bit more than others. The standouts for me were probably the Riesling, the Chardonnay, definitely the Viognier, and that Rosé is an absolute winner. Obviously, thank you very much to the team at Yalumba and Hill Smith Family Vineyards for generously sending me some samples to taste the wines. It's been an awesome exercise to look at all the 2017, I guess you would say, chilled wines from the Y Series range. If you would like to send me some samples to have your wines profiled here on Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino, please do get in contact with me via my website, intrepidwino.com. I'm more than happy to look at some wines. I do tend to focus on Australian wines. Happy to look at New Zealand wines as well. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Make sure to leave a comment below. Ask me a question. Share an experience with the Yalumba wines. Be sure to share the video on social media and subscribe to the Intrepid Wino YouTube channel. Of course, you can visit me at intrepidwino.com. As I mentioned, lots of different ways to get in contact with me. Please follow me on social media at Intrepid Wino on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and did I forget anything? It's been so long since I've done one of these. Come and visit me at the Vincast on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can find the Vincast. Just Google it. subscribe and listen to some of the episodes. I am at some point going to interview Louisa Rose. I also want to interview Jane Ferrari, who is the Yalumba storyteller, brand ambassador. She travels around the world talking about Yalumba. And one of the dream guests for me would be Robert Hill Smith, NW himself. But we will hopefully get that at some point. But otherwise, guys, I do hope you enjoy the video, as I mentioned. But until next time, cheers.